Hello, my name is The Political Kid, and today we're going to be talking about something not as common in political spheres that is mainly talked about nowadays, which is the Protection and Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Now, this has been in place for a little bit more than I've been alive. So obviously this is a very more older topic, especially within the early 2010s, late 2000s, that kind of area, but it has been very instrumental in the way that Republicans have kind of viewed healthcare in general. Now, it was made into like a way so that uninsured people could get more affordable health care. However, it has been very ineffective in a numerous amount of ways. However, it has helped people in the short term, and without it, we would probably be in a worse place. But it has been instrumental to the critique of Republican healthcare since when they did have the chance to replace and repeal Obamacare, they didn't get the amount of votes needed to actually pass it. And Obamacare was divisive since 50 out of it was only Democrats. 50 Democrats voted for this bill, and there was about 60 Democrats due to the fact that George W. Bush was very unpopular. Therefore, the 2008 elections was a Democratic sweep. However, many moderate Democrats like Joe Lieberman and many adjacent to his political views were very harsh on this bill since they wanted a little more funds for healthcare subsidies, but they didn't want the full Obamacare deal. However, as it is shown, there's been a lot of rise in premiums and healthcare costs, and the bill has helped many struggling families afford some parts of their healthcare bills, but the healthcare system is the worst in the world. And although it is an exaggeration, we can say that it's the most inefficient since we pay the most per person in this country, but we still have very terrible care because our actual citizens have to pay the brunt of that cost, yet healthcare companies are kind of the reason for this, and we're not giving enough attention to this. And that's why there's been many voices calling for either repealing this and having a more corporate, independent kind of system for this, which is a mainly Republican value, or we could replace it with Medicare for all, which is a very progressive left-wing view, which many like Bernie Sanders has promoted it and said, hey, this might even cut the cost for Obamacare since it would be a more efficient plan. So which plan should we go with? Since there is actually three solutions to this, we could either go with the Republican solution and make it more of a consumer and corporation kind of deal and have them negotiate with their healthcare providers, or we could just keep the current system in place and hope that it'll get better, but realistically, we'll get into why that probably won't happen. Or we could invest into the Medicare for All plan and hope that it could actually decrease some of the cost while also having more attention to those uninsured people. Now, this is a very divisive topic, and many Democrats like to say that the Republican plan will cut all these uninsured people from their healthcare needs. Therefore, it's not a good plan to just cut it and replace it with something else, which could be a very dangerous route to go through. However, Republicans also say, hey, this is going to leave a lot of people with not being able to negotiate with their healthcare providers, leading to more stagnant healthcare costs. Therefore, it might not drop ever. And this is a point that both sides of the aisle have been making for decades, and especially within the last 2 decades, this has been a very controversial topic. And there is a third way, but I'm just going to get this out of the way for this video. If you want to keep the current system in place, you're probably somebody like Nancy Pelosi, Gavin Newsom, those types of traditional Democrats, because this is a very inefficient way to back those uninsured people, since yes, it was a good short-term policy for the late 2000s and early 2010s during the Great Recession. However, nowadays it's terrible because there's way more people having to get insured, and the poverty gap between the like 90% and the 10% and even the 99% and the 1% has increased within the few years, and taxes haven't gone up on those 1%. And although from this kind of standpoint, I do seem like I am wanting for those Medicare for all solutions, but it is good to note that if there is negotiations between those healthcare providers and the uninsured or insured person, it would maybe result in lower healthcare bills, but then again, it would have to be a very organized effort. So there could be a moderate solution to this, but then again, there's no way that's going to happen due to the fact of the partisanship within the United States Congress and the presidency for the last 2 decades. So, what could we do? Well, there is many different types of bills that we could have. We could either increase subsidies for these people, or we could cut some of them and have it up to the healthcare providers, which we have obviously talked about. But most of those solutions, we will still have a plan which will cut or increase our expenditures, which again, we can't really afford, since if we cut some of these programs, there's going to be a lot of people who are now uninsured and can't afford that. Or we could increase those subsidies, but then again, that's going to increase our expenditures, which will lead to more stagnant growth within our economy. So this is a very delicate issue, but we shouldn't be just burying our heads in the sand and focusing on other things, because this is a very difficult topic. I mean, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid provide a lot and most of the expenditures within their economy, and why we have a $2 trillion deficit. But it doesn't mean we should cut those, but maybe make them more efficient. So that's why I believe that progressives and conservatives should work together to both minimize the expenditures, also able to have it to go to most people. And although it would be a very complicated issue to solve, it could be done. I mean, there's many partisan issues that people have been able to solve, especially within the last few years, due to many different scandals, especially the Epstein kind of thing, and when Thomas Massie, who unfortunately lost the primary yesterday, teamed up with Ro Khanna to release some of those files within the Department of Justice, and therefore this is a good sign to show there is bipartisanship. But then again, he just lost. Thomas Massie just lost his primary. Therefore, there's probably going to be more partisanship within the United States Congress, and even more within the United States Senate, considering, again, it's going to be even more divided, possibly even a 50-50 because of these midterms. So, should we just wait for Congress to do this? I mean, we could, but then again, we've also been waiting for them to do this for the entirety of the issue itself. But should we just ask Congress to maybe find out a solution to this? No. They never listen to their constituents, because they're not going to compromise their ideals to actually help the plans for the American people, which is a very hard topic to think about, and it is a bit of nihilism, and it is sad, but what we should do is make sure that our elected officials are willing to help with this, instead of just asking those in power if they could help solve this. Make sure those people in power already have those ideals to compromise and make a more efficient solution for these healthcare problems. So, I mean, I'm going to leave with that, and obviously, I'm going to also say for especially these past few videos, there's been many conservatives who have called me very brainwashed, and I just want to say no. I am a moderate conservative slash libertarian, and the only reason why it seems like I'm in favor for more left wing like proposals and stuff, and like saying that the Democrats might win the House is because these are just purely educated guesses, and I'm talking about these issues, which is sometimes more aligned with a more left wing perspective. But I just want to say, I truly do want to keep this very nonpartisan and just want to talk about these topics. So thank you if you don't say those things, and please just keep this comment section respectful. And Obamacare was a very partisan topic back then and still today. Is it going to change how we see Obamacare? Is this video going to change that? No. But it should give you a detailed perspective on what's happening and therefore how we could find solutions for these things, not who we should trust to solve these solutions for us. So that's why I'm just going to leave it with that. Again, I'm the Political Kid, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.